Quick question for everyone watching. What is your favorite type of twisty puzzle? I hope you answered because we're out of time. Okay, so there are plenty of different types of Rubik's twisty puzzles and whatnots on the market. Most people, of course, know of the traditional WCA events like 3x3. Of course, we also have 2x2 through 7x7, and then Scube, Square One, Pyraminx, and then the other ones we don't talk about. But say you're not a WCA type person, maybe you enjoy yourself some cuboids like this 2x3x4 that is deceptively difficult to solve. At least for me, it took me a few weeks. Anyways, we're not talking about those right now. What we're talking about is my favorite category of puzzles. And yes, I've come up with this on my own. They're the kind of puzzles where you take a look at them and you think to yourself, how does that even work? Everybody knows, of course, the Ghost Cube, don't you? You better know it. If you don't, then... The Ghost Cube is a 3x3 shape mod and a very difficult one at that. It is not solved by color, but instead by shape, as each piece is just slightly different from one another. To make things even harder, the solved state is off-axis, meaning that the cubic form can only be achieved if the layers are slightly twisted. So the Ghost Cube is a puzzle where you take a look at it and you can't really see, obviously, how this thing's supposed to turn. There's no, like, cuts or any clear axes where you can do anything. Until, of course, you twist the layers, just so, and you finally form some things that work. And we realize that this puzzle is just a very deceptive, tricky 3x3 shape mod. Down that same lane, and a bit newer to the table, we have the Puppet Cube, which sucks. Okay, the puzzle doesn't suck, it works fine, it's a heck of a challenge and maybe fun if you're a masochist. But speaking of sucking, I actually have a video about this if you want to watch it. There you go. But again, just like the Ghost Cube, the Puppet Cube is just a 3x3 shape mod, which, upon looking at it at first, is kind of difficult to grasp the turning and workings of. These are just two of the more popular examples of this sort of impossible looking puzzle concept I'm trying to get at here. In the modern age of cubing, however, the market's flooded with tons of these puzzles, some of which no one sees. So what I've decided to do today is a sort of act of charity. I've scoured the internet looking for my favorite type of puzzle, these deceptive looking ones, and found one that no one's really reviewed, no one's really looked at, and has gone largely out of the public eye. While this puzzle was first created over 15 years ago and finally mass produced about 5 years ago, today is the day where it's going to finally get its 15 minutes of fame. Introducing the Calvin's Puzzles Tony's Overlapping Cube by Tony Fisher. So yes, here it is, and you tell me how this turns. This is what I'm talking about. This is peak out of focus material. This is peak confusion right here, and I love it. Is it a 4x4? Is it a 5x5? Can you do it? I don't know, because I don't know how it works. Okay, so to get the biggest challenge out of this puzzle, I purposely avoided looking at any videos of how this thing turns and how it's solved. However, what I do know about this is it's basically a 4x4 to where the inner mechanism has been brought out to the surface. Make of that what you will. Can you do it? Millions of combinations and changes. Enrich your eyes and brains. Ultimate challenges. Man, they're getting me hyped up already. Apparently it's for ages 8 and up. That's pretty high, isn't it? That's like my entire audience. Achtung, nicht für Kinder unter 3 Jahren gedingt. Oh shoot. Attention, not suitable for children under 3 years. Alright, okay, I think we've covered pretty much everything on the outside. Let's open this bad boy up and see how it works. And here it's stuck. There we go. Okay, so here we are. Yeah, so off the bat, this is big. 4x4 or 5x5, whatever it is, it's bigger than both of them. Take a look at that, holy smokes. Actually, I have 7x7 somewhere. I do. So here we have an old Moyu Alfu 7x7, and it is the exact same size pretty much. So it's kind of big, but not so much that'll really affect your solve or experience, I don't think. Speaking of experience, let's experience this puzzle and how it works. First turns. Okay, underwhelming so far, I guess. Yeah, auto layer turns fine. It's about the driest thing I've ever felt. But this is what we're talking about right here. Let's try the inners. That's kind of weird. Okay, so here I can kind of see what this puzzle's getting at. If we look in here, there's this like hidden edge piece inside under the two 4x4 edge pieces. And if you've ever opened up a 4x4 before, this probably looks kind of familiar. If we take a couple edges off of a 4x4, we have this inner kind of edge piece inside here where the outer pieces grip onto so they stay in the puzzle. So this hidden edge within the 4x4, which only functions as a mechanical necessity of this puzzle, now serves a more practical purpose because we have to actually solve this. Now, what's a bit more of a tricky concept to grasp is these centers on the overlapping cube. What do they correspond with in the 4x4? I guess this tiny little internal edge piece corresponds to each of these three, and then I guess once you bring that little piece to the surface, these corners fit in like so. Yeah. So now the question remains, how difficult is this going to be to solve? Well, right now I'm getting kind of flashbacks to the puppet cube, thinking about these occluded hidden pieces in here, like what exists on the puppet cube, which I hate. However, one advantage of the overlapping cube is its inability to bandage in any way, like this. First, let's get a hand on the mechanics of this thing. Let's do a checkerboard, see how this looks. One thing I'm noticing is you can turn, if you really try, this inner layer all by itself, just like you could on a 5x5, but it's not quite as smooth. The center layer is like super stiff, and there's really nowhere to grasp onto it, so that's probably going to be a little tricky when it comes to solving the centers, but we'll worry about that when we get there. So here's a full checkerboard. That looks kind of cool. Now let's scramble this and see if it'll ever be solved again. I'm sure it will. This one can't be too bad.
My name is Mel. Nice to meet ya. How you doing?
Alright, I think that's about good. And yeah, the inner layer, I think, is definitely going to be the biggest problem. It likes to catch on this layer right here. When I go to turn just these two, it likes to turn with them, and it's very tricky to kind of get this lined up to where things don't lock up and you can keep turning. So what we're going to do now, go off to the solving cam and see if we can finish this thing. Alrighty, here we are. So hopefully with any luck, this should be among the shorter solves we've seen on the channel. I guess only time will tell. My technique for going about this, pretty straightforward, and I'm really hoping it works. Just solve centers and edges like you would on a 5x5, just keeping in mind the ones that are hidden, the little edges that are hidden underneath here. And then, hold on a second, shoot. Okay, yeah, I gotta think. Pairing up these edges right here with the one in the middle should be exactly the same, theoretically, as pairing up the 3-part edges on a 5x5. In theory, that should work. Okay, I'm gonna time this. I'm feeling confident. You can probably tell. I was gonna grab my phone to bring up CS timer, but the phone is what I'm filming with. Shoot. Alrighty, here we are. This works better anyways, so we'll roll with that. I guess let's start on the centers. Start with blue center for good luck, as always. This is where we uncover the fact that I am awful at 5x5, but that's fine. First two centers going pretty swimmingly. And as I kind of suspected, the trickiest part so far is just dealing with this innermost layer, which likes to get caught up on the outer layers. And then when it gets misaligned, it's really hard to grip things and get things to do what you want. Okay, centers are done. Now onto the edges. This is the tricky part. I guess I'll do yellow-red first. So here's the outer, but now where's the inner? Where are the inner? Somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I have this inner edge here. I have to align it and then move it into place without messing anything up. Put it in the top, and then this is gonna be easy. That's solved. We just gotta do the same thing for everything else. I feel like I'm playing hide and seek with the pieces right now. It's like an I Spy book almost. And I'm putting that one backwards. Whoops. Where is this inner white orange? It must be hiding under an otherwise... Oh, there it is. Okay, now we're on to the last 4 edges. Okay, there we go. Last 3 edges. Hopefully I don't mess anything up now. I just realized I'm already 5 minutes into this, and I thought I was doing way better, and now I gotta do the edge parity algorithm, which I rely on very heavily through muscle memory, so this is gonna be rough. Is that what I wanted to do? Wait. Wait. Shoot. Shoot. Just the last 2 edges. It's like a combination of 4x4 and 5x5 parity. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. No, wait. What if I just do 4x4 parity? 4x4, the last 2 edge algorithm. I did something wrong. Let's try it again. I keep messing up the internals. Let's try the 4x4 last 2 edge algorithm. No, wait, no. That won't work. That won't work here.
Alright, allow future, smarter, sicker me to explain what's going on here. So, I could not figure out what I was supposed to do at this point. Basically, I have the last 2 edges to pair up, and as many of you know, there are different algorithms that you use to solve this case, depending on if you're on an even or odd layer cube. Since this is kind of both an even and odd layer cube, well, both of the algorithms could have worked, but in different, it's weird.
Okay, so here we have each of these cases on their own respective puzzle. We're going to take a look at the 5x5 case first, because it's kind of the most one-to-one when comparing it to the overlapping cube. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So we have these last 2 edges. We have one algorithm to do to solve them. And there we go. Now, we can absolutely have this case on the overlapping cube. We do the same algorithm. And now what we have on the 5x5, 2 solved, 1 unsolved, same on this side too. And then if we look here, 2 solved. If we take a look at the one inside, 1 unsolved, 2 solved, and 1 unsolved. Do our alg. And we are all good. Now, when we take a look at this last 2 edge case on the 4x4 and compare it to the overlapping cube, it's a little more tricky. So the algorithm for the 4x4 is as follows. Pretty simple. We can see that that has solved both these last 2 edges. Now, if we do the same algorithm on the overlapping cube, however, we will see that the inner piece has rotated 180 degrees on one of the edges. However, that is just one way in which this 4x4 algorithm can be executed on this cube. The first method we tried just utilized this single inner layer and the outer layers, but what we can also do is turn both of these inner layers with the outer layers, like so. It's a little tricky, but with some finesse we can do it. So we're left with this same 2 last edge case, but if we take a look at this left side, we can see that the inner piece is flipped 180, while the right side is not flipped. So if you end up with this last 2 edge case, depending on which inner piece is flipped 180 degrees, dictates whether you use the algorithm with the 2 inner layers or just 1 inner layer. And if none of your inner pieces are flipped, then you just use the 5x5 algorithm. There you go. That worked. Oh, and I just stopped the timer. Hold on. We'll just keep going. Okay, that's fine. just 3x3 stage left, which is pretty nice on this cube, honestly, better than I thought it would be. OL's done, and then here we go, and bam. Sub 9, I guess. It actually took longer than I thought. So yeah, that was a not much of a challenge, but something different. It's cool. Yeah. Talk about it more at a cooler, different angle.
So would I recommend the Tony's overlapping cube? Well, sure. Again, it's not that much of a challenge, but it has been pretty fun. I have come back to it a few times off camera to solve it. It's something pretty unique, something cool to add to your collection if you want. It's also not too expensive, which is nice. So if you've bought just about every mainstream puzzle on the market and you're just looking for something else, here you go. And that's pretty cool. Thanks for watching. Bye.